Paul would say, don't just watch, but work. See, it would have been easy for them. Listen, I don't want to discount what I'm about to say. You hear me. Prayer's powerful. I think you ought to pray for hurting people around you. But can I say that, and I'm going to call you to pray for somebody before this service is over. Hear me. But can I say that that kind of becomes our cop-out in the Christian life? Like, I'll pray for you. Now, Paul could have said, Thessalonian church, I know you're going through it. I'm going to pray for you. He did. But he did more than that. But Paul, listen, Paul's prayers were powerful. People were healed through Paul's presence and Paul's prayers. Like when Paul said, I'm going to pray for you, I've been like, pray for me, Paul. I like what your prayers are doing. But in our vernacular, it's kind of become a cop-out. That's why when you get a text from me, I tell people all the time, hey, we're going to pray. I just texted somebody a moment ago who told me about his surgery. And I said, I'm going to pray for you right now. I've got some deacons in my room. I'm going to pray for you right now. We prayed right then. When I tell you I'm going to pray for you, I stop right then and do it. I don't want it just to be a language that we use, but for too many Christians, we just kind of say, I'm going to pray for you, and we don't even pray. But it gives us an excuse to move on. Instead, Paul chose to act, and he said, we sent Timothy. Paul took what was near and dear to him, and he gave it away to help others in their difficulty. Listen, seeing the need is the first step, but the second help is to reach out and go to work and say, what can I do? To lean in and find out and do something. Don't just work. There's someone in your path now that God has placed there for you to help. And I want to be honest with you, it's going to cost you something. It's going to cost you some time. It's going to cost you some attention, some resources, money, some comfort. But don't just watch people who are in hurting. Engage with people who are hurting. When I first became your pastor, I think there were 5 of us. Trey, I don't think Trey was official yet, but there were 5 of us. My original 4, the OGs. Josh had joined in. Eventually, Trey came along. 7 years later, there are 12 of us. And it's bedlam. And if you don't think it's bedlam, invite us over for dinner. We'll be happy to come, all 12 of us. It's bedlam. Inevitably, when we get together, we've given up on restaurants. I can't remember the last time we've done a restaurant. We've given up on restaurants. Restaurants have discouraged us from coming, actually, and we've given up on restaurants. But we'll come to our house or somebody else's house, but we all get together. And the adults, we don't get a lot of adult conversation with each other. And so the adults, at our house, we have a keeping room, and we try to get all the kids busy in our house. And the adults will all sit in the keeping room and try to grab a few minutes of conversation. And so it's just... these mamas especially, they long for a little adult conversation, right? So we try to grab it. But inevitably, after about 3 minutes, while we're trying to grab a few moments, we hear it. You know what I'm talking about, the blood-curdling scream coming from another room that says one 4-year-old's trying to murder another 4-year-old when actually they dropped their cookie, but it sounds like somebody's trying to murder somebody. And when we hear that blood-curdling scream, here's what we always do. I always say, Trey, lead us in prayer for that toddler back there. Now, you know what happens when you hear that scream? Every time. 1 or 2 adults jump up and run to the situation to find out what's going on and what needs to be done. Because that's what you do when you hear somebody scream. And can I tell you something? God has placed somebody in your path this morning who's screaming. They're screaming out, I need some help. They're screaming out, I'm discouraged. They're screaming out, I'm depressed. They're screaming out, I'm hurt. The question is, are we just going to sit here or are we going to do something about it? Don't just watch work. Yes, it may take some sacrifice on your part. And I'm not asking you to take on a group of people. I'm not asking you to take on a bunch of people. I'm asking you, who's that one that you need to help?